This live stream is brought to you by CAS, where the C stands for collector, not Chris. Visit collectorarchive.com. We grade and preserve your collectible toys, video games, sports memorabilia, and packaged trading cards.
Hey there, collectibles fans. I'm so used to saying toy fans, but it's collectibles fans. This is Chris Whitlock from Collector Archive Services, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Anthony Spanicki, and I want to say Happy Thanksgiving. Oh, and he loves Chris, and so do I.
I do.
And I love Anthony. I need to get an I love Anthony shirt. Because, well, you know, here it's camaraderie, right? But it would be nice.
You know, an I Love Sprinkles t-shirt does exist. You know that.
And you know what? That's something but does it show you?
Christmas is coming.
See? Now you know what to get me. I'm a size dad bod. Is that a real size? I'm a little pear-shaped in the middle. But I want to say happy Thanksgiving to anybody, to all of our fans. And also, probably more importantly, happy Black Friday. And it is, we are running our annual Black Friday sale, meaning that right now, if any purchases you make now, you get 15% off of the original purchase price. And even if you don't want to, so my very, very first time I submitted anything or did anything with CAS was I think I did like 10 mint on card figures, and I did them all on Black Friday, and then it took me about 8-9 months before I sent them in. But at least I got the discount. So if you want the discount, if you're anticipating, sending some things in even later, this is a good time to, buy it now, use it later. It's fine. It's always going to be good. It doesn't go bad. It's not like a holiday ham or something. It's gonna last the test of time.
And that is through and including Monday, right? Cyber Monday.
Yep.
Which I believe is the 29th.
So whatever 6, a few 7, days 8, from 9. Now is.
29,
so,
all day till midnight. So,
and really take advantage of it. It's really, so if you think about it, our we have two club memberships, right? One of them is 10% off, and the more expensive one is 20% off. This really kind of splits the uprights there, and you get it essentially for free, and also for free, which kind of brings us to our topic at hand, is we're also during this time giving away, gasp because I put so much work into it, our new bubble preservation system. So during this promotional period, we're going to be giving this away. So if you are sitting on a bunch of mint on card figures, even like stuff that maybe you want to get recased. So, it's a lot cheaper to get something recased and just send it in and get those done.
Oh, Chris, listen. What is, by the way, I didn't know what shirt to wear tonight. And I was like, and then I thought about it, I was like, it's a no brainer. I'm wearing the I Love Chris shirt because you are a genius. I mean, your head doesn't need to get any bigger than it is.
Yeah.
But you are. What is BPS? What is Bubble Preservation Solution? Explain it. I know
So
we did put some stuff out there, but from the creator, tell us.
So we've all seen it, and if you've been a collector of vintage Star Wars stuff for a long time, so the very first time I inquired at all about grading was probably 2012, and one of the biggest things where yeah, you can get it graded, don't get it graded, but there are people out there who are like, I will never get anything graded until the grading companies come up with a way to protect the bubble. Mm-hmm. Meaning that once a piece is sealed in acrylic, if you want to ship it or remove it or do anything you want to do with it, you have no way of protecting that bubble as is, and so it's sort of prone to jarring and everything else. And we have seen the horror stories.
Here's a picture, right? And some of those figures are 40 years old at this point, right? So that's 40 years, right. 40 years of
Yep. And it's happened to me.
Moving, selling,
yep.
right?
Yep.
So here,
has it ever happened to you?
It has. 4 or 5 years ago, I worked on a complete run, and it was an Admiral Akbar. It was a Return of the Jedi, obviously. Yep. Return of the Jedi, Admiral Akbar, and I got it, and his head had busted through the top of the bubble. And I guess Akbar is actually one that is prone to something like that. I mean, because he's got kind of like that faux hawk.
Yeah.
So I didn't know it. He's one of the ones that when they get transported, you get something like this, right? Now, does that make you nauseous or what?
Well, it does, especially because because we wanted to get some before and after shots of my Boba Fett. I sent my Boba Fett back to CAS to get regraded, and I'm terrified. I mean, because you're looking at now like that AFA, I think it was a 60. Boba Fett is probably about a $6,000 mint on card, and as it is there, I mean, it still has value, but it's probably a $900 to $1,000 figure.
My Akbar was I don't remember, it was 80 or 85, but it was a great bubble. It was clear. I was very excited to get it, and it arrived head butted through.
Right, and that happens, So as these figures move, it deflects, it pushes up on the bubble, and those bubbles have a tendency, when it pushes up, it deflects a little bit, it bows upward. When it bows upward, that's bends, where you right? That's where you get that bending and cracking. And so before, what we've had, I'm going to grab my example. In fact, when I get to doing this figure, of course I'm going to send this in, but my first experience with bubble protection was this Anakin Skywalker. I'm going to get it closer, but this is our acrylic solution, right? Mm-hmm. And it does a very decent job. We don't see it keeps the figure in place at the very least. So even if it did break through the bubble, it's not going to go wandering through, and you're going to see him at the bottom of the bubble. But
bubble won't shear off of it, because we've seen that too, right? Bubbles can completely shear off the card. That will prevent that. Right.
That was a CAS thing. So what we started doing, and AFA has done it as well, is we put these feet at the bottom here, and what that does is it now constrains the bubble to a location.
Yeah, here I got a little visual here.
Okay.
Although yours is nice too, there, Chris. I don't want to, So here's ours. Here's a Luke.
Yep.
So you've done a lot of work on this, and I've watched some of your 5 facts about carbacks. You know all about the bubble types. So this bubble it's tapered on top, right? It's not a flat bubble, right?
Right.
So it doesn't fit like a glove, right? Because that acrylic rim is flat, while the front of Luke's bubble tapers down a bit. So there's some daylight between the acrylic and the bubble, right?
Yeah. So I've done some vacuum forming in my past, learning this, and the reason why they taper bubbles is because it's easier to strip it off the mold. So it was a lot quicker for production reasons. When we make acrylic, of course, it's all square, and it's supposed to be square to the card back. So what we would do is we would fit that to where it touches at one point on the top, and one point on each side, and one point on the bottom, especially on the Luke where it has the stemmed bubble, and so you really only get that one point of contact. Now, it is still some support, because if that figure pushes up, it's leaning on the bubble and it's giving it that support, but it doesn't give support all the way forward, right? Because it's tapered.
It's all about, because anything mechanical fails eventually, right? You could take a thick metal stainless steel rod, you cycle it, it will snap. You cycle it a million times. Same with plastic. That head hits the bubble, if there's daylight for it to move, it will eventually fatigue, crack, and then you have to get the catastrophic Greedo through the top.
If it hits it forward of where it touches. So even without all that, the mechanical failure, the bubble failure can still happen. What the acrylic will do at that point is it will still constrain the figure where he is. So even if he breaks through the bubble, he won't end up somewhere floating around inside the case. But if you have Nicto, right? And if you picture that these bubbles are tapered, if our bubble protector is only touching towards the back, but his horns are forward of where it touches, and those horns decide to break on through to the other side, there's really very little that
just need a couple of millimeters, right? Just enough excursion to make it bend and crack. So, all right. So we know the problems that were out there. I know plenty of folks who are anti-grading because of that, understandably so.
Yep.
So what has the Professor Chris Whitlock, come up with? Tell us all about it.
So I actually, as big as my ego is, I will say I did not invent this. So my very first trip to CAS, I was talking to Ken, and we were talking about different ways we can mount figures and different things and speed it up and make it. And I said, well, if we made vacuum form molds of the figures and maybe we could do that and put them into cases, it would make casing figures faster. And he said, hey, Justin H. Okay, so we'll get to your comment here in a minute. But one of the things that Ken said, he goes, dude, that's a lot of work. He goes, we actually have this idea. So we actually have this. He goes, so if you take these bubbles and you stack them on top of each other, they actually kind of stack like solo cups, and they'll fit right on there. He said, so we had this idea where if you could vacuum form the original bubbles and put them over the current bubbles, that would actually be a really cool form of bubble protection. And I'm like, and I love it because it's an idea that I would never come up with, but it is an idea that is spectacular. And so while I was able to realize that dream, I would never come up with it on my own. And I heard that, I'm like, holy crap, we have to do this. And Ken's like, we don't have the time to do it in-house. And I said, so this is going to be the Chris Whitlock project. So whereas Anthony took over, he did social media, and we've had people that had certain jobs. My job has been in the background to do all this with...
It's been 2 years, right? You've been working on this at least a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Really, I have, yeah. Yep. And there's a lot. So what people don't really realize is, so for example, for the first 21 figures, I've isolated 18 unique bubbles. So there's a couple of crossovers, and then there's a couple of figures that have multiple. So a Vinyl Cape Jawa has his own bubble. Jawa shares a bubble with R2, and then he also has a unique bubble. So depending on what Jawa we can get any one of 3 different bubbles for him.
I know this because I watched your 5 facts about card back series. Yeah.
And so,
so people need to understand that it's not a generic cookie cutter bubble protector for it's not one that we make for each figure. Right. It fits like a glove on each particular figure, depending on the bubble, the size, and that is for which figures? The first 21. Yeah.
So and let me find. Maybe I won't. Because I don't want to take too much time. But so the original. I guess I kind of have it here. So this is a Luke Skywalker on an Empire Strikes Back card. And one thing that you'll notice is that he has a stem on his bubble, right? This was designed so that way he could sit upright on a shelf way back when, right? So then when you segue out to Return of the Jedi, what Kenner did is they said, look, we're not going to have these figures sit like this anymore. We're just going to use the hanger tab. And if you notice, no stem.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right. So what happens is you have your first 48 figures that exist. On a 48 back in here, you can get through between Star Wars and Empire, you can get pretty much any permutation, and all those figures have bubbles. So we have the first 48 figures have 48 different bubbles, and then for Return of the Jedi, they cut the bubbles off, and you have to start from zero again and create brand new molds for all those figures with no bubbles. So so this is going to be a sort of a long-term project, because we have the first 21, and eventually we'll have the first 48, but then I'm going to have to go do all the Return of the Jedi characters, but I'm going to have to do the first 48 also with no stem. And then the 40 characters that came on Power of the Force cards, I'm going to have to do them with coins.
Yeah. Well, you got nothing better to do. So
I'm
do it. Do it.
I'm
we actually got our first question here, Chris. This is from in Portfest.
Okay.
Awesome job, guys. Chris, any chance you guys will offer the BPS solution for Mego carded figures and other carded bubble vintage toys?
So the short answer is yes. The long answer is, we're going to start with Star Wars. There's a lot of variation with Star Wars. Then we're going to get to other ones. So I know very little about Mego. So I don't know what Mego variations look like, right? I have done a little experimenting with Motu. In fact, there was sort of and I'm not going to get into the details because we want to keep some of the stuff proprietary. But because Motu bubbles are so big and take up so much space and use so much resin, well, that's what I use to make some of my CAS. I was like, what can I use to fill in the gap? So I created a venting system for the inside of a Motu bubble, which I translated back into Star Wars in order to make that work without using so much resin. So when I look at something like Mego 6-inch figures, that would be, those are large bubbles. But certainly, especially let's say we can isolate 10 heavy hitters on Mego, or let's say they're all the same because they use the same bodies, then I would only have to do that once. And
have to take a look at that line.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And so maybe a Mego expert that can talk to me about some Mego bubbles and say, hey, just so you know, you're really only looking at one or two. Well, then maybe, I'll kind of work on that and on the side, because, we're a preservation company. If I can protect these bubbles, I will do it to my heart's content. And to do a Mego one probably would not be very hard. And so short answer, yes. Long answer, I don't know exactly when.
Eventually,
but
right?
for sure, yeah, for sure, yeah.
All right, so you have that Boba Fett, right? I know you showed it, but here I'm going to just show what our solution has been up till now.
Yep.
Actually, I'm going to remove Import Fest. Thanks for the question. Okay, so there is the CAS answer thus far, and listen, that serves a purpose. Our friend Adam Marks, he did a recent Collector's Corner where he showed his, I think it was a carded Uze. R5. It was
he had a loose one, but
it was Canadian. I think it was a Canadian.
Okay.
It was a pretty rare figure.
Oh yeah, it was a 20 back. Yep. Yeah.
And it shipped, and the bubble came loose, and then we did this for him, and it served its purpose. It will not keep that bubble secured, keep it from coming off, but doesn't do what the BPS does. And here's the AFA example. Same thing. You see, it looks the same. You can see it, right? It's aesthetically not. Like, you could tell something is there. It doesn't look like just the figure, as opposed to what's in your hands.
All right, so and I'm not. So I kind of got lucky with my Boba Fett. So I'm going to show two kind of high end Boba Fett. Sort of lucked into that.
Boba Fett?
I know. I'm not trying to be very snobby, but
Star Wars
in that I have it. It actually makes a good side by side comparison. So first of all, I'll start with what we have now. So. Very, very difficult to see it. I'm gonna try to show you where you can look to see it. But what this is a thin layer of plastic. So it is 20 thousandths thick. 20 thousandths, for those of you who don't really know the measurements, is about 5 pieces of paper thick. That covers the entire face of the card. So it is molded off of a vintage Boba Fett stemmed bubble, meaning that it is the exact scale that fits this Boba Fett. So it is taken from that one, not from something that was close, from the exact one. So
and it covers the entire card too.
The entire card. And so when they put this in, the really cool thing is for those of you who don't know how our cases go together, is we start with a flat back, put the rails on it, right? And then so they put the cover over this and then slid this under the rails. So now this is constrained on both sides and the top So if this card had a little bit of a wave to it, now instead of it just being constrained just on the edges, it's actually pushed down by that piece of plastic. If this were unpunched, it would also hold that punching because it's constrained from the back, and now it's constrained from the front. So when people know those have a tendency to fall out over time, this is actually it's going to flatten the card, it's going to constrain the punch, and it's going to keep the bubble on all sides. So I looked at this, and when I first got it, I mean, honest to God,
you can't tell.
I couldn't tell at all. So I'm like, how can I really tell? And this is a terrible. I mean, it's really hard to tell.
Here it is, right here. I think that's the same figure. That's
exact same.
Right?
Yep. So, but
it just looks like a regular graded carded figure. You can't tell there's anything around that bubble.
Not at all. Not at all. And it literally just slides over like sliding into a solo cup.
Like a glove.
Yes.
A solo cup, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just it stacks in there. And just for the sake of, if you can bring me back to the visual, Anthony, is I'm going to show you, this is my Canadian 20 back Boba Fett, right? So the 20 back is this one here, and this is the 21 back.
Ooh, I have a Canadian 20 back.
I know I am very, very, but you're looking at this and even glare wise, folks, I mean, like, this room is exceptionally well lit, right? And I am not seeing glare really all that bad. I mean,
hey, Chris, is the 20 Canadian bubble different?
I don't believe it. So somebody actually asked that, and these are identical bubbles. The cool thing is when it comes to foreign cards, I believe like the Palatoys, until you get to more of the Empire stuff where you get the twin stem bubbles, but like the early Palatoys, those had counter bubbles. Canada has counter bubbles, but you look at like French Meccano, right? The square card French Meccanos, and those actually don't have stems, and those are square cut flanges. The flange isn't really all that critical, but the thing is, it's a completely different bubble. So if I'm eventually going to be able to make bubble protection for those, I'm going to have to get sample bubbles.
Yeah. I even if I look at the Toy Tony, I have a Toy Tony Bosque, which I thought was because it had the double stem. And just for the bent collection, I've got a Toy Tony. There's like double stems on those, right? So I don't think, Kenner, did they have any double stems? I don't think so.
Palatoy did. And so actually, those were real bubbles. So at some point in time, as we go through this, I'm going to. The nice thing about releasing this now is
the baby monitor has been passed off.
Okay, you're now.
Erica's going to the neighbor. I'm in charge.
You're live streaming. You're in charge of the family. Yeah. But if Anthony has to go,
just one kid. One kid's in the house right now.
Cool. But so at some point in time, one of the nice things about us. One of the reasons why I wanted to roll this out early is that at some point in time, we're going to be seeking bubbles. So, I'm going to want a Power of the Force Anakin. Or I'm going to want somebody who can tell me if he uses the same bubble as somebody else. So, I'm just going to throw, let's say he has the same bubble as a Luke Jedi. Well, then I can create a bubble protection system using that one and not have to, use an Anakin bubble. But you have to use original bubbles. You have to basically use one. Now, the more fragile these bubbles get, the less likely they are to hold up to the process I need to do it. But this is actually one that this is a Han Solo 12 back bubble, and it did not get damaged in the process of me molding it. So, but I actually, and I've done some random ones throughout. I did like a King Gornish, and that thing, the mold came out well, but it did not survive the process. So
I feel like the later ones, which you need to work on, Chris. I feel like those are the ones that are probably more prone anyway. Those are the ones that seem to yellow more. That means they're more prone to color discolorations,
right?
Plastic deformation.
And
those are the ones that eventually are really going to benefit from this.
Right. Yeah, and those are going to be a little bit more challenging, because as the line progressed, the harder, the more detailed these figures became. So like, I'm not super excited about doing Lando Skiff or Leia Bush, right? Because the helmets are another issue, right?
Separate compartment.
And then you do want to do like Leia Poncho, Power of the Force. So then I got a bubble, a helmet, and a coin, or Luke Stormtrooper, So these are things that that's a Chris problem.
You can do it, Chris. I know you can.
I can, but the other thing is the ratios have to be But the ratios have to be exact. So the coin has to be exactly where the coin is, and the helmet has to be exactly. So it's a matter of making sure that I'm recreating them down to the micron.
What I didn't realize, and I didn't know that the bubble was like where it would be stamped, like that there it was really standardized. The bubble would be heat pressed or heat sealed in the same spot every time. I thought it was somewhere in the general vicinity.
They actually had a form.
Yeah.
Now there is variation because sometimes we'll get some that overhang or a little bit tilted, but for the most part, they're wildly consistent, and that's actually part of our whole process. So not only did I have to mimic the bubble exactly, but I also had to get it put in the relationship to the card back exactly. So, I can't have, I start with more of a generic one, and then I measure off of that. But if I need to move that on the final one, left so much or up so much, it has to be there, because if not, you'll actually see it on the card front. So, I've had to make some adjustments, and the more tighter I got with my tolerances, the less, the more I've got to
slip in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right. I have a question.
Sure.
So I haven't seen any other questions in the feed yet, but so it's not my original question, but John Rula was very nice to put out a video the day that we announced BPS, and he had some comments in his on that video. And one of his followers, his question was, won't the bubble just crack, but inside the BPS?
Yeah, and so the answer is likely not. So because what you're doing now is you're essentially doubling the thickness of it, or even more, because a typical bubble is 15 thousandths, and our BPSs are 20 thousandths. So you're now looking at something 35 thousandths thick. So 15 thousandths is like 3 pieces of paper, and 35 thousandths is going to be like 7 pieces of paper thick.
Okay.
So just to kind of give you an idea, and
Hey,
so
I actually happen to know if you double the width of something, their mode to failure increases to the 3rd power.
Okay, so and we're more than doubling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and this is sort of a crude analogy, and I wish I came up with something a little bit better. But imagine you get really, really angry, and you punch a wall, and you can poke a hole through a wall, right, with your fist. Then imagine hitting where the stud would be, and all of a sudden that doesn't break anymore.
Yeah. No,
right.
But listen,
it's reinforced,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So
listen, if you got the BPS and you walk around your house all day shaking it, of course, everything mechanical, any material fails. But the whole point is you care enough to get the BPS. You're not going to be the one walking around the house shaking it. Of course, if you did that, eventually it will crack. But it provides so much more protection than it would have otherwise.
And you're stacking the deck in your favor. So you're doing a couple things.
The plastic will not be allowed to bend.
Not nearly as much, because
eventually fatigue and crack.
Right. Instead of a 40-year-old bubble that you're trying to do that with, you're doing with something that's not brand new and a little bit thicker. Right. And then also, you're looking at that heat seal at some point in time. Those could fail. Well, now you're taking a little bit of that pressure off, because our rails, are pressure rails. So they are. You have to kind of lift them up a little bit to slide the things under it, so they actually hold downward pressure. Well, now when you have the BPS slipped underneath those rails, you're actually taking away some of the weight of that figure, because now it's the BPS is absorbing some of that weight, and it's not pushing directly down on the heat seal itself. So
if the figure's hitting the bubble, right, that's a force instead of the bubble taking it on. Yeah, every force has an equal and opposite counterforce, right?
Yep.
So it's not going directly to the bubble. That force is being transferred to the BPS. This big sheet now that is encasing the entire. So it's a bigger surface area. That force is being dispersed on.
Right.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So it definitely does a much better job. And so you're protecting things in multiple ways. Again, it's flattening it. It is It's going to protect the punch. It's going to protect the bubble, and it's going to take some of the weight off of everything. So it really is a sort of multifaceted solution. Kind of excited about it, if you can't tell.
It's great. I'm so happy for you and Ken. Ken. I guess Ken. It was his brain. His
Ken and Todd came up with it. Yeah, and sure.
And you made it happen. I know how hard you worked on it, so I'm really happy for all you guys, especially you, Chris, because I know that you get home from work and you just work on these molds every night.
I do.
That's why I'm wearing this shirt here.
And it's funny because Ross is a great person, and his kids.
He's all right. He's all right.
He's one of well, he's but
I love Ross.
His kids are going to be wildly successful. I'll tell you why. Because like when I did my very first testing of this, the vacuum form actually now resides with me in Michigan, but it started off in Florida. So I flew down to Florida, and I was very, very, very excited with some of the results that I had, you know. And I took some pictures, and I shared it with the group. And there was what I call like a little bit of static. So it was like these almost like little whiskers at the ends of the bubbles, just tiny, like maybe mil and a half. There's tiny little things. And so you say I get back, you get strong work. That's great. All the other guys are saying all this stuff, and Ross sends back. He circles them in red, and he goes, what is this? Is this on my card? Can you please remove this? This wasn't here when I sent it to you. Said every CAS customer we're ever going to have. Yeah. And here I'm so excited. And he takes the wind out of my sails. But what he wanted to do is he said, look, our customers demand the best. They really are picky because they want these things to be visually well.
One of the first things, and this is a Ross Love Fest, but we all love Ross. I remember when we were designing the CAS banner that you're on, that it's on your shirt. I remember talking to our graphic artist about it and be like, Ross, this is awesome, right? He's like, well, this is off center and that's off center. I was like, damn it, you're right. So we had to send it back a couple of times, and he's right, man. His attention to detail, he's awesome.
He does, and the thing is that it reminds me of was it Winston Churchill? I think one time had a guy redo something that he wrote like 4 times. The guy's like, he goes, this is the best I can give you. I'm sorry, but I put my all into this. He goes, well, now I'll finally read it because. But the idea being is like don't try to settle for less. And if you can, and there are struggles. So one thing that nobody ever knows, like you'll see first shot figures, you'll see chromalian card backs, you'll see proof. You don't ever see proof bubbles, right? So. And so that technology is out there, but trying to find information about it is more challenging. And when Kenner creates this bubble, so when Kenner created this, there's a mold that will that they make this out of. And let's say they're getting these little whiskers on it, right? They can put a piece right out here that stretches that plastic a little bit more. And when that happens, it gets a nicer form bubble. I can't do that because I have to do the entire card back. The whole card. So yeah. I can do something to the left side of it, let's say, but nothing to the right, or vice versa, depending on whether it's a droids or whatever. So Kenner has this advantage because they're only doing something this big. I'm doing something 6 by 9 card. Yeah. Exactly. So it unfortunately it takes up. They have a little bit of an advantage.
All right, Chris. So it is available now. For the first 21 figures on any Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back card back, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And how much does that cost anyone right now if they were going to go on our site and order it right now?
So all my hard work,
today.
All my efforts, if you do it today, it's absolutely free, which means we're not making anything out of it.
Our prices are insane.
I know, insane. But we're gonna roll it out afterwards. It's gonna be only $15, which is what we charge for the old bubble protection. Okay. So you're gonna get this seamless, much, and it protects so many things.
Very reasonable.
Right. Yeah. So
when you think about my Akbar, it's
right.
An 80. It was an 80 Return of the Jedi. I probably paid in the hundreds for it, right? So yep. I eventually got refunded, but that card, that item went from maybe $150 item to down to $30. $30. Right. That's eventually. I kept it, and he refunded me about $120. So it's worth it for sure.
Right. And old plastic. I'm going to answer your question really, really quickly. And I'm glad you're excited about it. We are too. And we are definitely going to eventually get to Return of the Jedi cards. And I touched on it a little bit. The reason why we haven't done that yet, I'm kind of starting from the beginning and working through. But Return of the Jedi figures have no stems, which doesn't make life any harder for me in terms of how hard it is to make it. But I'm starting with the earlier figures and moving on through. So Class 2 will have a stemless bubble, and I'll probably do all the Return of the Jedi new characters first, but then at some point in time, I'm going to have to go through and do the first 48 again with stemless bubbles. So, the original Luke Skywalker, I showed this earlier, the original Luke Skywalker comes with this stem down here, but the later versions of them, have no stem. So with no stem, I'm going to have to make an entirely new mold for that. which is fine. It's a crisp problem, but it's something that we're going to do. And how I'm going to do this is we rolled out the first 21. I actually did a lot of my initial experimenting with Empire Strikes Back figures because my entire Empire Strikes Back collection, I only have 2 of them graded. I have all my Empire Strikes Back figures are 48 backs, 48A backs, challenging back to get. And so condition-wise, there's a lot of like 60s in my collection, which is fine for me. They were hard to get, but meaning that I have a lot of figures to experiment on in terms of fit because I have them that are not graded. So I already have the Empire Strikes Back figures about halfway done through what I need to do. Then when you get to the Return of the Jedi ones, I'm going to start picking and choosing a little bit because, I think, and I don't want to upset any Reese or Klaatu fans, right? But I think, a Luke Stormtrooper may be more important to come out with.
Or a
than
Gunner
Reese.
Luke, right? A Gunner Luke.
Right. So, so, I'm gonna start soliciting. So we are in the market for some of these tougher bubbles. So I happen to have like a Luke Stormtrooper, but I don't have a Gunner Luke. I don't have a Jedi Boba Fett. I don't have a Jedi Leia. I don't have a Jedi Han, and I don't know which crossover figures. That's something I kind of figure out as we go along. So at some point in time, we're going to have to acquire those and make that happen. So it is a process. Now I do happen to have all the Return of the Jedi figure bubbles. So, that's I'll move to them, probably before unless I happen to come across like a Gunner Luke or a Leia or but it's one of those things where, you have to get them. So you kind of roll with what you have and try to find these tougher to find bubbles as we go. So anybody that has...
Listen, I'm so excited you got the first 21 done. I mean, I'm ready, ready to bust them out and send them in. Like
and that's
it's a no-brainer, right? If you care about your collection and it's an investment, and these are going to stay on the shelf, but we take them off the shelf, we hand them, we look at them. I might have to, maybe I'll move one day.
Right. Yeah, and even we've had
you want to protect it,
right? And we've even had heat seals fail. So long term, what do we charge? I believe it's like $40 for a recard to correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But so if you have something that's already graded, and we don't have to take it through the grading process, so all we do is print out a new label, and put it in a case, and send it. Take pictures and send it back to you. It takes a lot of steps for us out of the process. So we don't mind, we charge a little bit less for that. So, we anticipate, obviously, people getting stuff graded from here on out with this on here. Certainly I will. But we also anticipate a lot of people that are sitting on, I don't think there's a 12 back that grades at 80 that sells for under $1,000 now, right? And to spend, like the cost of the recase plus the bubble protection, you're probably, $55, $60 to get that, preserved.
If you've got a $1,200 item in your collection, $15 more, or until Monday, no dollars more.
No dollars more, right?
It is a no-brainer.
Yeah, right? It really is a really doesn't move the needle very much, and the amount of production it provides really kind of sells itself. So definitely something I would definitely consider if you guys are sitting on, and that's eventually what I'm going to do. I'm going to just, as time goes on, I'm going to just maybe do like 5-10 at a time and send them in and have it done. So, something else too, that because I stayed on John Rula, Action Figure Graders. I was reading a lot of his comments. We don't have plans at the moment to sell these individually, but I think ultimately we will, because I cut these right now at a larger size, so that way we can, if a bubble's tilted or whatever, we can accommodate that. But I do have the ability to cut it directly to size to the 6x9, and I even have a little clipper that I can round the corners on it, and so these things will actually fit in a star case. So even if you don't want to use our service, if you just want to send something, you want to buy bubble protection, that's something that we could offer. Or if you're saying, God, I don't want to. I want to send my 12 backs, but I don't want to send them in acrylic cases. I want to bust them out. I'm going to send them to you again in star cases, and I want to make sure they get there safely. I think ultimately the ability to be able to, sell bubble protection to our customers to begin with, will be really, really nice, because you can get them to us safely. You can get them to their final destination, even if it's not us safely. So,
Chris, you're gonna put the styrofoam peanut business out of business. So
well, you know what? So, one of our
I hate doing that. I hate putting the figure in the star case and strategically putting in the styrofoam peanuts around the bubble, taking it out, putting them back in. Something like that would be.
One of the earlier comments on here, somebody mentioned that they saran wrap their bubbles, and I cardboard wrap mine before BPS. Yeah, Justin H. What I used to do was wrap it in cardboard, make it so it had a nice tight squeeze. But let's be honest. Well, and that touches in one place, just like our acrylic. Now, Justin, you're right. You have the saran wrap, which does cover the entire thing, but. And it puts inward pressure on the bubble, but it doesn't stop any flex, right? So saran wrap is better than nothing. Our bubble protection, hopefully, is better than saran wrap. So the nice part about it is that we have this ability to just slide that right over there. It touches all the way along that taper, and it fits just so nicely, and it holds everything in place. So it's something I'm really excited about.
Okay, folks. So it is free. It is free. If you have a first 21 figure on a Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back card back, and you've been thinking about getting graded, it is free. Submit. Take advantage of the 15% off Black Friday sale.
3 more days.
Monday through Monday, and the BPS is absolutely free.
Yep. And of course, it's our product. But boy, oh boy! I mean, when you see some of the damage that these figures have done, I can't imagine that there's.
I think if you've been collecting long enough, it's happened to you. It's happened to me once.
It's happened to me twice.
Yeah.
Yep.
So been collecting long enough, it's going to happen. These things are 40 years old. It's understandable. So
yeah, and they weren't meant to be kept like this. But CAS, we're always trying to improve things. We're always trying to make this happen, and really excited about this. And I'm going to keep working to try to get this stuff out.
Chris, I'm going to say, I love you, man. I love you, Chris.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. I know how hard you've been working on it. So I'm so happy it's out and it's now available, and we can reap the benefits of your hard work.
Yes,
so.
and I'm kind of hoping. Maybe by celebration have Empire stuff out. I always miss my deadlines, but I'm trying to, because I know people want this. There's Yodas out there that people want to have protected, and then there's other stuff that I want to get it out to the people because it's something that's needed. And anytime I see people on Facebook and they post it, my heart breaks for them.
These things have been out 40 years. You came up with a solution in less than 2.
Yes.
So kudos.
Yep. Thank you. So.
Is that it? Or we done? Chris? Yeah, I guess anything we want to. All right. So we relaunched our podcast, right? Passion for Collecting. So if you haven't heard our newest episode with Steve Johnson, a great show. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. We're gonna have the video releases of that.
Steve Johnson is a toy expert.
Yeah, from Pawn Stars, right? Great.
Yeah, he's a toy expert from Pawn Stars. So, and boy. He was a good color commentator. He could really fill in some gaps. So really a cool guest. Yeah. Someone really fun to listen to, for sure. So there's that. I still owe you one more clip for my 5 facts about 41 backs. So hopefully that comes out sometime soon. I've written the 45 back one. So and when we say I'm doing this BPS stuff, I'm also doing these programs. So I'm a busy guy.
As Ross says, you're the hardest working man in the toy grading toy grading industry. So
we all do. We all really are trying to make this.
I don't know if you noticed. I had been for the show. I've been sipping on Burnt Mills Fall Spice, which is our 2 cents from the last episode. I'm going to get us an endorsement. I'm telling you, I'm working this. It's local.
I love cider. I love cider. So if you want to, if we can get an endorsement, I get like a lifetime supply of cider for plugging that. I am going to be the spokesman for Burnt Mills.
I'm Chris, and I don't always drink hard cider, but when I do,
it is Burnt Mills cider. I am the 7th most interesting man in the world. So
but number 1 at CAS.
Yeah. Yep. So
all right, Austin,
look out for all that look for stuff on our YouTube channels. There's a lot of content out there. If you have any questions about BPS, for sure reach out. I'm paying attention to John Rula's thread on Action Figure Grader. I'll pay attention to the thread on this to answer any questions. You can always get a hold of me through Facebook Messenger, and definitely we're here to answer any questions. So, yeah, like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Come watch us, come see us, come enjoy us, and then we're going to be hitting the show circuit really, really hard next year. So
big year. All right.
Yes, can't wait. Can't wait.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Happy holidays, and
happy Black Friday.
Happy Black Friday. Take advantage of the sale and the free BPS until Monday. Yep. All right. Cool. Hey, Chris, I made an outro. I made an outro. You want to see?
I do. All right, guys. See ya.